This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the Dell XPS 13 again. Really, we've looked at several generations now, and the first one we reviewed years back when it was, well, you could count the number of Ultrabooks on the fingers of two hands. Now, of course, there's lots on the market. The XPS 13 is still going strong, and as we can see here on the table, it's been joined by a whole lot of other Dell friends. Right here, this is the Dell XPS 12 convertible. This is the XPS 11, the one with the unusual capacitive keyboard. And there we have a competitor in the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon. That's the 2014 edition. So here's how it sizes up, and you can see those at 13.3 inch. It's about the same size as the Dell XPS 12, which is pretty amazing. And Dell has prided themselves on the fact that they made a 13.3 inch Ultrabook. That's about the size of a 12-inch Ultrabook, and there it is. It actually is. And even compared to the XPS 11, which is very thin and also lighter, the footprint's darn close. So it's still one of the most portable Ultrabooks, and it's obviously going to be a lot smaller than the ThinkPad 14-inch Carbon X1 that we have right here. We're going to look at it now. So here we have the, well, same old Dell XPS 13 lid, and that's not a bad thing because it's still a very attractive Ultrabook. This is an aluminum top here, carved from one piece of aluminum, unibody as they call it, and the bottom has carbon fiber. Still, I love the carbon fiber because it's nice and soft touch, grippy, looks cool. It's different from other laptops. And the service tag is underneath this little metal pull-out thingy. Vents over here, there's little ridges to keep it off the desk just a little bit so those vents can actually do their thing. And as we look on the side, we've got not too many ports. There's one thing I wish Dell would have added more ports and SD card reader after all these years. We got our headphone, combo headphone mic jack right there. USB 3.0 port, there's the charging port. And on the other side, another USB 3.0 port. We have a mini display port that's actually pretty versatile. I know HDMI is pretty popular, but this allows you to drive even higher resolution displays, and you can get a mini display port to HDMI adapter if you need to do that. Little button here you can press and see your battery status, something you don't see on all notebooks. And that's it for ports. Like I said, no SD card slot, no HDMI. Oh well. Good looking, nice polished metal sides here. Weighs around 3 pounds, obviously quite slim. Obviously has a small footprint too. So let's take a look inside. Now as we open it to take a look inside, you can see nothing much has changed right here from the last generation XPS 13, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Great keyboard right here. Nice concave keys, large size, good tactile feel. A glary display above, I'll grant you that, and the display doesn't go that far back. Right now we have it actually as far back as it can go. But since it has pretty wide viewing angles, that's not too bad. Large Synaptics trackpad, that's a good thing. The days of the old nasty Cypress trackpad long gone. This is one of the nicer trackpads, one of the nicer keyboards on the market. Really competes well with Lenovo ThinkPad products. If we take a look from the side, you can see the key relief. Now, the keyboard is set down a little bit in the tray around it, so there's really more relief than it looks like. Good travel. The keys have a nice damped feel. You don't hear a lot of nasty rattling. So, good times. It's a backlit keyboard, and this gets into a complaint that some of you have mentioned about this. Yes, the keyboard backlighting does have whine, or what some people call coil whine. It's kind of weird, particularly if it's at the mid setting. You got high brightness, you got mid brightness, and it's quiet, but it's noticeable. I have pretty good high range hearing, and some people are really deranged by it. It doesn't derange me, but I can hear it, but it's like yeah, really. So it's not that loud. If the fan comes on, believe me, the fan will come on this. It's going to drown it out. You won't hear it. But for those of you who are sensitive to high-pitched sounds, it may bother you. Other than that, it's a very pleasing, even backlight on the keyboard, and it certainly makes typing in the dark a whole lot easier, as long as you don't mind. So once again, this is as far back as the display goes. The good news is this is a lovely display. Wide viewing angles on this, covered in Gorilla Glass, 1920 by 1080, full HD. Now the last time we looked at the XPS 13, that was about a year ago, Dell had just moved to bring full HD to this. Before it was the pedestrian 1366 by 768 for the first gen one. Now with this revision, what have they brought? Touch. It's got Haswell inside, Intel Haswell 4th generation CPUs, and a touch screen as well. So let's take a look at it. And sure enough, it's a glassy mirror. So certainly a colorful and pleasing display now with touch. Real important. This came preloaded Windows 8.1. If you're going to use Windows 8 or Windows 8.1, it's a whole lot easier and more enjoyable to do with touch. You can do swiping in from the side to get to your charms that much more easily, that sort of thing. And in terms of colors, you can see right here we used our Spider colorimeter, Spider Pro 4 colorimeter to measure color gamut and brightness on this. This is right up there with the best Ultrabooks on the market. This is a CMN 1345 display, by the way. 95% of sRGB, so almost 100% of sRGB coverage, and 74% of Adobe RGB. So a very good display in terms of colors. Now for brightness, 300 nits of brightness. That's pretty good. It's not something you're going to use by the pool, especially given how reflective and glary it is, but among Ultrabook displays, that's pretty good. That's at the upper end of the range. Now here you can see the specs of the machine we have. That this is really what Dell hopes is the starting range model for most people, though they do offer a less expensive one. This is the Intel Haswell 4th generation, again, Core i5-4200U. You can also get it with a Core i3 for $1049. That does not have a touchscreen either, so yeah, you probably want the Core i5 and the touchscreen really to make Windows 8 more enjoyable. So this is the 1299 configuration. 8 gigs of DDR3 RAM, that is soldered on board on the XPS 13, and 128 gig SSD. Ours is made by Lite-On. There's also a Core i7-4500U option, and that one has 8 gigs of RAM as well, and a 256 gig SSD, and a 3-year rather than the standard 1-year warranty. That is $1649, getting up there in the price. Now that Lite-On SSD actually gets pretty good performance numbers here. This is Crystal Disk Mark, so you can see how it does. And pretty competitive. There are certainly a few drives that'll do better than that, but among those that come built into Ultrabooks, that's pretty good. It's an mSATA drive, by the way, so it's not too hard to upgrade yourself if you want to do that afterwards. Now obviously this is full Windows, so you've got Windows 64-bit and access to the traditional Windows desktop right here. Notice the thin bezels on the display. I think that's pretty attractive. 720p webcam up there, 720p, not that exciting. It's adequate at best. Dell does do nice stuff with the internals, though. We have Wi-Fi, dual band, Intel 7260 AC in here, so that's as good as you can get right now. For us, Wi-Fi has been strong and reliable on this. No problems with dropouts or odd connection slowdowns. Pretty robust. Bluetooth 4.0 as well. In terms of synthetic benchmarks, on PC Mark 7 it scored 4792. That's pretty good for a Core i5. 3D Mark, remember, this is Intel HD 4400 integrated graphics. Like most Ultrabooks, there's no dedicated graphics option. It's scored in performance test P868, 868. Again, that's par for the course. W Prime, it computed pi in 24.58 seconds. Geekbench 3, 2733 single core, 5145 multi-core. That's very good. That's along the top end of what you're going to see in Ultrabooks running on Core i5 CPUs. In fact, it's as good as some Core i7s. Dell always does a good job performance tuning the machine, so no complaints with performance on this. It's fast, it's zippy. One thing I'll tell you though is you're going to hear the fan if you stress the machine on this. And it's been that way with XPSs for some time. Honestly, the fan is just pretty robust on this. Now, if you're just surfing the web, you probably won't hear anything, but if you're playing back full HD videos on this, if you're installing lots of software, certainly if you're outputting full HD video using Windows Movie Maker or the movie editing program of your choice, or playing Civ 5, which I've been known to do more than I should, the fan will go woo, you'll hear it. It's not a particularly offensive, whiny, weird sounding fan, but it's louder than the average Ultrabook these days. And it's noticeably louder than my Dell XPS 12, which is a pretty quiet machine. So go figure. The XPS 12 may have a little bit more room in terms of internals to actually dissipate some heat there. So quiet machine, not so much. I mean, it's not hideous. It's not like the Sony Flip 13 when it came out. That VAIO was like a vacuum cleaner. It was an embarrassment in a small room. But if you are in a library, people might look at you when you hear the fan come on. As you might guess, like all Ultrabooks, the battery is sealed inside, and what that means is there's no handy lever or latch release so you can get the battery out. However, you can unscrew the bottom. It's not that hard. If you ever need to service it, say the battery gets old and doesn't hold a charge a couple of years down the road from now, so it's not impossible. One thing Dell has done is slightly increased battery capacity. They used to have this 47 watt-hour battery inside. Now they're up to 55 watt-hour. But Haswell really brings the serious battery improvements, and Dell claims up to 11 hours for runtimes. That's very optimistic. But I will say that I've been getting about 8 hours on a charge with mixed use. Web browsing, some YouTube playback, doing email, working on Word documents, medium to lightweight kind of average everyday office and productivity kinds of tasks. So not bad there. Now, if you're going to use it to play Civ 5, once again, any kind of 3D game like that, if you're going to be exporting full HD video, anything that's really very processor intensive, that is going to, of course, shorten battery life. But overall, it's one of the longer lasting Haswell Ultrabooks. In fact, easily, I would say you could probably get 8.5 hours. I'm just running it with the default Dell Power Management balanced settings and with the screen brightness at about 2/3 of the way up. So for those of you who don't mind a dimmer screen, you could certainly drop that brightness down and probably extend your battery life significantly. So that's the Dell XPS 13, the latest generation, called the 2014 model with Intel Haswell and the touchscreen inside, and hopefully that tells you what you need to know. As ever, it's a very good-looking Ultrabook, very solidly built, sturdy, awesome keyboard. The only thing that might bother you is the fan noise. Like I said, it's not the worst that we've ever heard, but you will hear it, and the keyboard going, nee. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.